One day 2 gunners were arguing at our accommodation, the old weather station we were existing in. One of them threatened to kill the other one. We were all drinking alcohol again, which didn't really help with our severe diarrhea and our conduct with lethal weapons. I said something like, "Go on then mouth," and gave one of them a loaded FN rifle. He grabbed the weapon, aimed it at the other lad, who went white and sobered up pretty quickly. Luckily for all of us, he never pulled the trigger. Scouse bravely intervened and took the weapon off him. God knows what would have happened if he hadn't. The gunner holding the rifle on that day is still a serving senior rank member of the Royal Artillery. What a difference a few ounces of pressure on a trigger can make. Our bodily functions were giving us serious grief after a week in Stanley. In fact, the wild shites went through the battery like the Black Death. I remember legging it to the nearest bit of dirt, pulling down my combats and squirting diarrhea like water everywhere. Not sure whether to laugh hysterically or scream with the agony at the worst stomach cramps you can imagine. You never felt finished. No sooner had you got back to the lines when another stabbing pain would hit you. You'd start off again, bent over, clutching your guts. I still suffer from IBS to this day. It's not surprising, really. We had no proper washing facilities and there was filth and excrement everywhere. We were living like pigs. Eventually, the powers that be decided on an emergency evacuation onto a ferry, St. Edmund, to assist in the repatriation of prisoners of war back to Argentina and give us some proper sanitation. I was really looking forward to that task. Visions of hot showers, good scoff, beer, and real beds dazzled my brain. Paradise. It was just as well we were beginning to look like concentration camp victims with all the weight we had lost due to the sickness and diarrhea. We soon settled into our new environment and started to feel much happier with our lot. We put on clean clothes and got assigned duties, mainly guarding the prisoners. This was probably the best part of the war for the Argies. Most of them were just young conscripts, and they had been treated appallingly by their superiors. Here they were being well treated under the rules of the Geneva Convention. 4 meals a day, tea breaks, medical attention, the lot, and they were lapping it up. We were stagging on, watching them smoke, play cards and generally have a good time on their way home, courtesy of HM the Queen cruise liners. Some of our lads struck up a friendship with 1 or 2 of them, but it was too early for me. I still felt a lot of hatred, though not so much for the ordinary squaddies like us, but for their officers. They got preferential treatment. They were given the best accommodation, with the best food in their own mess. We kept winding them up by telling them we were taking them to Chile, where they would be executed by our South American allies. What really pissed me off was the fact that we had to wake them up in the morning with a cup of tea in bed. Apparently, this was the Red Cross's rule. We had our own little tea battery way of doing things. Taff had pinched a loud hailer from somewhere, and every morning we would gently open their cabin doors, sneak inside, put the loud hailer next to their heads, and then scream, "Morning Argies," as we prodded them with our rifles. Chile, Chile, next stop Chile. What a lovely morning to die. We'd then drag in the tea urn for 10 seconds and then drag it out again before they had a chance to get to it. Too slow, never mind. While they were officers, and we hated officers, especially Argie ones. When we were guarding the Bakshi Argie squaddies, we made sure they got their brews and fags okay. You could tell by their faces that they were genuinely grateful, and apart from 1 or 2 of the regular army gung-ho types with them, they didn't bear us any malice. They'd just been doing what they had been told to, and they were glad the whole nightmare was all over. Mind you, we still had our fun with them from time to time. The majority of them were held in the car deck area, where they sat, well-behaved, row after row of black hair and dark-skinned faces. Apart from one, the middle sat a lad with blonde hair and pale skin. I pointed at him. "Come here, mate." He looked up sheepishly. "Yes, you come here." He stood up and timidly walked towards me, standing in front of me, head down and shaking. I don't know what he thought I was going to do. I certainly had no intention of hurting him. To break the ice, I gave him a boiled sweet. "Where are you from in Argentina?" "I am not from Argentina. I am from Holland." "From Holland." He went on to tell me that his family had moved to Argentina as his father had got a job there. When the Malvinists were liberated, he was forced into the army. He didn't know anything about soldiering, and had survived during the battles with the British by hiding himself under the corpses of his fellow soldiers. I gave him some more boiled sweets for his troubles, and not wanting his fellow captors to be suspicious of him, I took out a handful of sweets from my pocket and threw them into the pen. They scrapped like mad, a mass of tangled arms and legs just for a poxy boiled sweet. That was it. I'd invented a new sport, Argie wrestling. Every time I was asked to guard them, I would bring a tin of boiled sweets to pass the time away. Another luxury the pose got was a shower. It was our job to take them and make sure they didn't stay in there all day due to the limited amount of water on board. 99% of them were great and did exactly as we told them, but there was the occasional smart aleck. Most of them understood enough English to turn the water off and get out when we told them to. I remember one prisoner who understood perfectly well, but decided he wasn't ready to get out yet. He even had the nerve to start singing. He must have been an Argie paratrooper. I shouted, "Water off, out now." It wasn't fair on the other prisoners who were waiting patiently, and we didn't have unlimited water. He carried on soaping himself and singing away. I put my hand in and turned the water off. He still had soap in his eyes and he just lost it, pushing me, rabbiting on in Spanish. Have you ever tried to grab a soapy, naked prisoner in a shower? Believe me, it's not easy. But I managed to get my forearm under his chin and pull him out. And as he turned away from me, I put my boot up his ass for good measure. He went skidding down the corridor some distance due to the soap on him and the shiny floor and came to rest at the feet of two startled Red Cross representatives who had just turned the corner. Their surprise at being confronted by a naked Argie apparently body surfing through the ship quickly changed to outrage at my treatment of the prisoner. Curtly, they asked my name, rank, and number before heading off to report me to our officer commanding. Later in the day, I was marched into CGBH. He told me that the Red Cross had protested in the strongest terms at my treatment of a prisoner. He had assured them that the guilty soldier would be severely punished. I was then allowed to explain the reason for my actions. I related the story, explaining the waste of valuable water and the fact that there was a risk of discipline breaking down with the other POS. As this one laughed and took the piss, GBH just said, "Next time, make sure the Red Cross aren't about dismissed." I had marched in thinking big fine and extra duties, and marched out thinking, good old GBH. Most of the battery had planned to smuggle their stolen illegal weapons aboard so they could take them back to Blighty. The BQMs had been clever though. He'd slyly asked us to hand over the FNS and other kit for safekeeping, like soft lads. We all did as he asked, labeling our weapons carefully with our names and passing them into storage. We never saw them again, and we were told after the conflict that they had been thrown into the sea on the journey back. I doubt it. Somehow, I still had an officer's Colt .45 stashed away. Anyway, we dropped off our batch of POs at Montevideo in Uruguay and sailed back to the Falklands. We spent another week back in Stanley, cleaning up again. They even sent us round the island picking up wool, of all things, and becoming increasingly fed up with our senior officers for not sending us home. One of our lads had a lucky escape when he found a booby trap of a grenade hidden in the wool. Our sister battery, 9 Plassey, had landed by now and had started deploying to our old positions. Although the war was over, Britain's attitude to defending the islands had changed, and air defense was part of the new approach. Surely, we could get going now.